CPD Show. My name is Chris and I'll be your host for today. And today, my guest is Dan Reiland. Dan is a coach, consultant, author, teacher, husband, father, and grandfather. Indeed, he brings decades of local church executive leadership experience to his ministry endeavours that focus on helping leaders to excel. Dan currently serves as a leadership coach at 12 Stone Church in Lawrenceville, Georgia, where he has served for over 20 years as the executive pastor previously as well. He's previously partnered with John Maxwell for 20 years, first as executive pastor at Skyline Wesleyan Church in San Diego, and then as vice president of leadership and church development at Dr. Maxwell. Dan, thank you so much for joining me on the show. What a bio to start with. Thank you. It's great to join you and to have you on the show.
My pleasure. And thank you for the invite. I'm looking forward to the conversation, Chris.
Brilliant. Well, we are going to dive into your book. So I've got a copy here of your book, Amplified Leadership. I've read this so many times that the pages have all gone kind of funny. And so that is just the amount of where I've got out of this book. So we will be diving into this in just a little bit. But before we do that, it is a tradition on this podcast that I ask every guest what their favorite dessert is. So Dan, what is your favorite dessert?
No question, chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, okay.
And very specific.
Okay, let's go for this.
Yes. So there's two kinds, right? There's soft, there's crispy and chewy, and then there's milk chocolate and dark chocolate. Has to be crispy dark chocolate.
Right. Okay. So like the kind of dark chocolate, almost like a Chips Ahoy or bigger. Or how what would you go for?
Oh, homemade probably. I don't know. My wife makes awesome chocolate chip cookies, but they're just, I don't know. I'm pretty disciplined on what I eat and my, daily exercise, but I cannot walk by a chocolate chip cookie. And I don't want to tell you how many I could eat.
Well, I won't ask. That's for sure.
Okay.
That's for sure. Well, all I can say is that so my wife makes soft chocolate chip cookies, and they are the same. We had some in the kitchen, and they are now gone. That's the best thing to say because
yes.
they're just right.
Just don't tell me that you had them for breakfast, and we're okay. Yeah.
No, I waited till mid-morning. Okay, it was good.
Okay.
So for me, I mean, obviously, I'm British. I'm gonna have it with a good cup of tea. What are you gonna have your cookie with?
You're going to enjoy this, a cup of tea.
Oh, very good.
I changed. Years ago, I've loved coffee, drank it for years, loved the smell, drank it all over the world. And then after a while, getting a little bit older, maybe in my 40s, coffee didn't like me. So I stopped and I thought, well, I could whine about not having coffee anymore, or I could make tea fun. So I started finding loose leaf teas from around the world and mixing stuff up. And then I used to have my tea in the morning with a devotion. And that took too much time and all that stuff. So now I have it, because my office is at home, I have it very British. I have it in the afternoon at 3 or 4 with a little scone or maybe a chocolate chip cookie.
That's excellent. And great choice on loose leaf tea. That is a really, that's a proper British choice, that is. So I think I don't often get the loose leaf out unless it's more sort of special occasion. So it's a very good choice. You can't really beat loose leaf when you're going for tea.
I do have the tea bags too, but I go there because it's fun and it's good. It's just good.
Yeah, it is excellent. Well, I think chocolate. Actually, I don't think anyone else on the podcast so far has brought chocolate chip cookies. It's a really good choice, and it's always a good dessert to have. You can have it as like I said, mid-morning, mid-afternoon snack, or as a dessert after a meal. I think it works really well. So,
before we go on to our topic, what's your favorite? I got to know.
Well, this has been an interesting topic, and people have spoken to me about this before because I have brought different desserts at different times. But my favorite, if I'm going to choose one thing, it would probably be a tiramisu. I just
Oh,
love tiramisu. I mean, I love coffee, obviously love tea as well. But that kind of coffee, but it's the mixture of the coffee with the foam fingers for me that just, yeah, it's a real win. And so yeah, that would be my choice. But I do love all sorts of desserts, especially as well the British classic, which would be crumble with custard.
oh, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
a classic. So
Well, in the spirit of your question, I'm going to ask you a question for the whole audience.
go for
For
it.
you, for them to play along, which is your greatest dessert temptation? Ice cream or the bakery? Any kind of ice cream kind of concoction or a bakery? Which one can you walk by and which one can you not walk by?
Oh, I mean, that's a very difficult question because they're both very difficult to walk by, which is probably the truth of it. But bakery, I think I would very much struggle. I could probably leave an ice cream. I mean, on a hot day, a little bit more difficult, but bakery products and things, they are just excellent. And yeah, so I'm going to probably go bakery. I think that's
Very
probably the
good.
win for me.
Very good. Very
Yes.
good.
Brilliant. Well,
All right.
well, it's almost difficult to move on from talking about dessert and food.
We probably should because they're going to be your listeners will be clicking off.
I think sometimes they watch and listen to this for this very purpose. They want to hear about the desserts, but they want to hear more than just the desserts. That's for sure.
Okay,
And
good.
we are here to talk about things to do with leadership development. And as I said at the start of the show, we're here to talk a little bit about your book, Amplified Leadership, which is just a fantastic book. 5 practices to establish influence, build people, and impact others for a lifetime, and a fantastic book. Like I said, I've read it multiple times.
Thank you.
I would love to find out what was your motivation around writing that book.
Yeah. So interesting. Actually, I was teaching the content for years and years and years at 12 Stone and in different churches and stuff, just because of leadership development process, real practical. I called it back then for many, many years, full circle leadership. The publisher didn't like that. And but one day I had lunch with an executive pastor friend. We're talking about leadership development, and that he was aware of full circle, and maybe I taught at his church or something. I don't know. And that's the amplified leadership content came up, and he said, "Why don't you?" He just literally looked across. We were at PF Chang's, and he looked across the table. His name is Richie, and he said, "Why don't you get this into many people's hands?" And I just looked at him like, "Well, that's a good idea." And he said, "You need to publish this book." And he was the one at a lunch at PF Chang's that encouraged me to say, "This is too good for just one church or a couple of churches. You need to let everybody have this." And he motivated me, encouraged me, and we did it.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, and we're very grateful to your friend for suggesting that, because I think it's a brilliant book. And actually, our church, we use it to develop leaders, so it's part of our kind of curriculum of leadership development, and it's such a great book.
So
And so it'd be great to dive into some of it on there. To begin with, you talk about a lot about establishing relationships as this kind of starting point of that. Um, it'd be great to kind of just have a sort of look into that topic. Why do you think that the kind of establishing relationships is so fundamental with leadership?
I love that question. It's a great question. Let me go back. Can I go back to the last one just for a second? Because
Yeah,
it's
sure, yeah, go for it.
a bit of a bridge to this one. So I told you how the book came about, but I just thought about your question. Said the motivation that he demotivated, encouraged me, but the real passion underneath the original content was right underneath my calling to build the church is a deep passion to develop leaders. And I've been so blessed over so many years from mentors who have poured into me. It's like, how can I receive all this and not give it away in any way I can? So I'm very, very, very passionate about developing leaders. And so I think those two things are connected. God put that guy in my life, my friend, and that sort of put a spark to a fuel that's in me to develop leaders. So anyway, I wanted to add that little touch because I think where things come from matters. Um, to your next question on the relationship, why is it so fundamental in leadership? I think that we're all wired for relationship. I think it's hardwired in us, relationship. I mean, God established relationship in the garden. He reestablished it with Abraham in the covenant. He fulfilled it with Jesus on the cross. I mean, it's relationship. And so it's part of our chemistry, part of our created DNA. And you know, even the New Testament is full of relationship scriptures. And so I think that that's why this book has to begin there. As a matter of fact, the first four skills are, well, all of the skills are relationally based for sure. But the foundation of the book is the first four, and they are those four, you know, connect, appreciate, encourage, and inspire. They're completely and fully relationally oriented.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think it can be really easy for leaders, and if you think about establishing those relationships, and it'd be easy to fall into the temptation where we want to build a relationship because it's kind of a means to an end. And so how do we engage followers, and how do we establish relationships with people, and in a way that's authentic but not sort of contrived, and that kind of means to an end?
Means to an end, yeah. That's a very good question. I think, Chris, we actually have to be honest with ourselves about the possibility to be more interested in growing the church than growing people. I don't think that's likely. That's not anybody's heart. No one wants, but we have to start with that possibility, that because both are good things, and that's really the reason there's a temptation there, or a possibility there, to lean into, I got to grow the church before the passion to grow people, is they're really close. It's almost chicken egg. Well, which comes first? Am I growing? Is that the call of God? It's his church. No, wait a minute. The church is his people. Yeah, but the church, and you can go back and forth with it, and you can slip unintentionally into the pressures of things around you to grow the church before you grow people. And so it's a heart thing. It's a heart thing. And I think from the place of it being a heart thing, we have to care about people. I know that sounds really, really fundamental and really, really simple, but I've been doing this for 44 years. So you have to, it's a heart thing, and you have to care about people. And I think church leaders care about people. I don't think you start this, but the pressures of the day and the demands, sometimes you run out of time for people, and it's like, wait a minute, you can't. So we have to fight for time and space to actually be with people, and we have to care for them. And one of the things that I believe, and we say at 12 Stone, and practice, do our best, is we have to want more for people than from them. That's the principle that we live out to combat this contrived thing. We got to grow the church, grow the church. Well, if you really live out, you want more for people than from them, you're pretty safe from that. And there's another thing that I can offer as a perspective from a guy who's been a pastor for 44 years. And just know a lot of guys and men and women who lead, and contrived relationships are exhausting. You can't keep doing that forever, and you just can't keep that up. Phony and fake, you can't do that forever. Genuine relationships are meaningful and fulfilling, and they have joy. Now, that doesn't mean they're all easy, and sometimes rough things happen and conflict happens. I get it, but it's always worth it. It's always worth it. And so I think for me, that's how I would respond to that question.
Yeah, that's great. Really, really great. And you talk about engaging followers in your book, and with that, it's engaging followers around a vision is obviously an important part of that. Why do you think that vision piece is so important for engaging followers? And maybe you could speak to how church leaders can do that vision piece better, or the best way possible. How can we engage followers better around a vision?
Good. Yeah, we of course live in this space all the time. All leaders do or should, And I actually think a whole other thing. All leaders are visionaries. We're just different kind. It's not just the senior pastor. We all have a style of visionary. That may be another topic. But so to begin with, vision provides direction. It's very easy for the church to just get running a circles and um, like disciple the same people over and over again. I mean, you're just doing the same thing with the same people over and over again. And yeah, faithfulness is good, but if you're just busy, busy, busy running, and that's very easy to get busy, just busy in church. And too many ministries, too many things going on, and you're not actually going forward, making progress. So vision provides direction. That now you have a path to go forward, a clear path forward. And now you have the potential for movement. You have the potential for progress because vision is forward, vision is direction, vision. I can see something out there. The preferred future, the language everybody coined in the 80s. And so you're going there. So that then gives potential for movement and progress, which is what? Measurable. And as God adds his favor and his grace to it, then you have everybody's favorite word, the leader's best friend. You know what it is, momentum. But everybody wants to go there, and you're not going in circles anymore. I love your second question. That's a good question, but the one you mentioned, the second one, how can we be more compelling, better vision, all that? This question I love, because I think it's the difference between a smart vision and a heart vision. And they're really, really different. A smart vision, because church leaders are smart. I mean, they love Jesus and they're smart. Um, uh, a smart vision is just like it sounds. Well, that's smart. A group of people got in a room and talked about it and prayed about it. And, oh, that's a good idea. I said, we'll go the next generation, whatever it is, that's a smart idea. And nothing really wrong with it, except here's the difference. A heart vision starts with burden. A smart vision is just a good idea. A heart vision starts with a burden God placed on your heart. And you've got to have burden to stay with the vision when things get tough, when you're out of money and there's conflict and someone comes after you and all this stuff that happens in ministry. And my favorite story in the Bible that illustrates what I'm talking about, the story will paint a picture rather than me talking on for 20 minutes, is Nehemiah. When he heard what happened, the exiles, the wall, and down, what was the first thing that he did? He wept. He was so burdened, he wept. And then the second thing he did, he prayed. That's a heart vision. And that's what we need. That's from God. Now I will get preachy because it's a passion point. And what I say to pastors when don't manufacture a vision. Sometimes we feel pressure. Oh, it's January. We have to do the vision of the year, or that campaign was over. We need a new vision. And this happens to every pastor, but sometimes they don't have one. And so they manufacture one. Don't do that. The thing that I share with pastors is if you're in a stage where God hasn't given you the new vision, the forward vision, number one, don't panic. Don't panic. Number two, because that happens. Number two, don't make one up because it's January or whatever. But three, here's the important one. Just go to the Great Commission, which is the foundation for everybody's purpose, everybody's mission, Matthew 28. Just go there and do the Great Commission until God gives you, because the mission that's the mission. But the vision, everybody has the same mission or purpose. The vision is your specific thing for forward and where we go in our people, in our town, at our church. Just do the Great Commission until God gives you fresh vision.
That is absolute gold, and because I think it's so easy for church leaders and ministers. They want to have a vision, and it's often it can be a real pain point for leaders, and that they've think, oh, I've got to have a vision, I've got to launch something, or it's Vision Sunday or something like that, and
right.
But waiting for that, what's the burden, and that can sometimes come from a place of pain, can't it? There's a like you said, Nehemiah wept over the walls in Jerusalem. And so similarly, it could be something in the city, or it could be something in the life of the church. It could be something that's lacking health within the church, or something around that. There's a pain and so it's not shying away from that pain in one sense. You've got to kind of lean into the pain. So
you're right on with that. That is really, really smart. And right now, at least in the States, you don't have to look far in current culture to find burden. And so I have no need right now to point at anything or, it's just God can take care of that. But there's so much going on that God identifies to say the church can rise up and do something about it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Your book also talks about empowerment and empowering leaders. What I would love to find out from you is, what does good empowerment look like? And then also, what does bad empowerment look like? Because I think sometimes we can think, oh yeah, I'm empowering leaders, but we may not be doing it as well as we think. So what's good empowerment? What's bad empowerment?
Yeah, yeah. Well, most of these are like an hour talk, so I'm really trying to jam on here. This one's like a 2 hour talk. So what I want to do in this one, I want to just give you because they're really self-explanatory, and we can unpack it if you want a little bit, but that could get me talking too much. And
Yeah.
my wife would say, don't get him talking because he won't stop. That's the passion coming out for leadership development.
Yeah.
So I think there's 5 components to it, and they're self-explanatory. So if the listeners just jot them down, they can run with these. They can unpack it in their own mind. First of all, you have to trust with responsibility. You got to hand somebody that you really have to hand them the keys, not partially. Not I taught my kids how to drive, and I did not want to give them the keys because I thought, yeah, they're going to wreck the car. You have to give them the keys. So it starts with trusting, and think about trust. What is that? Relation. It's the core of relationship. So trust them with responsibility. The second one is to train them for competence. I mean, how crazy would it be to give my son and daughter keys to the car if I didn't train them how to drive? So they've got to be competent. Then unleash them with authority. And I love the church, but the church we're not always great about this. We'll give them responsibility, we'll get them trained, but we won't give them authority. They have to have a budget. They have to be able to make decisions. My kids, they have to have insurance. You've got to actually give them authority to go do the thing they're going to do. Then the fourth is communicate for clarity of expectations. The team, volunteers and staff, they can't win if they don't know what they're supposed to do. Make it clear. Or even with my kids in this little illustration of teaching them to drive long time ago. I think they both tried to kill me. I taught them how to drive behind a clothing store called Kohl's. But we all survived. We all survived. The cars didn't make it all the way, but we survived. And we had an expectation in those early teen years, 16, 17 years old, that they had to be home. I don't even remember now, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, but they had a time. There was an expectation. And if you violate that expectation, now let me mention something here that's very, very, very rare. It's something's wrong in the soup if this happens a lot. But you can occasionally need to unempower, to take it away. But I want to be clear, if there's trust and there's training and there's culture and all that should be rare you take something away. But if the expectations are clear, then you have at least a rational thought of why you did. Like my kids come home at 1 a.m, we're taking the keys. Make sense? Then the last one is to love and believe in them for maximum potential. This one really is more for a redemptive community. I think the first 4, if you went to Harvard or went to online or AI, you're going to get something like those first 4 that I've been working with for 20 years. But I think love and believe in them for maximum potential, like really believe in them. I think that's part of a redemptive community of the church, where we actually believe in people. Sometimes one of the most fun things I get to do, and you get to do in leadership development, is believe in somebody before they believe in themselves. And to let them borrow our faith and our belief in what we see in them so that they can reach their potential. I think that's what it looks like. What does bad leadership, empowerment look like? The opposite of those. Just take those 5 and don't trust them, don't train them, don't give them real decision making. No, don't give clarity, don't love them, that's bad empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that trust factor, I just want to probably pick up on that one. I think maybe you could speak to that, because I think that to me seems like the root. I was looking at if you know Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team yesterday, and he talks about the first that first pillar of that causes dysfunction is a lack of trust. Talk to me about that trust. How can leaders, ministers, how can they get better at trusting people so that they can empower them?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think it starts with it's a sequence of leadership. It's a little primer that we have all of our staff almost not memorized, but our residents hear this and we teach it. But it's a little sequence of heart, connect, trust, follow. And what those, it's like leadership in 4 words. And for me, leading from the heart is where everything starts. Leading from the heart is nothing grand and ethereal. Leading from the heart means you, be authentic, be the real you. If you're leading from the heart, be honest about your flaws. You just be an authentic leader. Lead from the heart. When you lead from the heart, people trust you, which is at least 50% of the trust factor. They don't trust you. You're never. I mean, the human psyche. We pick up stuff. So if you're holding back, they're holding back. Everybody starts holding back. So lead from the heart. That leads to, if you lead from the heart, people will trust you. If you lead from, when they trust you, they will, let's see, what did I say? I lost my own.
You said heart, connect, trust, follow.
Heart. Oh, yeah. I left out one of my own words. So heart, they connect. If you lead from the heart, they connect. I'm a content guy. I use notes, but I'm just talking to you here. So if you lead from the heart, they'll connect. And when they connect with you, they trust you. And if they trust you, they'll follow you. And that's what makes all the, and it goes in here, if I can remember 4 words backwards, the real power in this is when you say it backwards. People will not follow those they do not trust. They can't trust those with whom they don't connect. And they cannot connect with anyone who they can't find their heart. And so I know that's fast for something as deep as trust, but maybe you and I should recommend to the listeners, get Cloud's new book on trust. It's brilliant.
Yes, I'll put it in the show notes. I'd certainly put that in the show notes. No, that's great. This book talks about coaching, and I know that obviously you're an expert coach. And I'd love to sort of talk a little bit about coaching. And what are some of the things that you've learned about coaching, and maybe some things that ministers can put into place to be a really good coach? Because I think maybe sometimes ministers don't think about being a coach in ministry, but maybe what are some of those things you learned? I'm aware that this is probably, again, a 6-hour topic that we're going to try and get into a very short space of time. But what are some of the sort of keys that you've learned about coaching, and maybe how could that then translate into church leaders?
Yeah, and I appreciate that little quick intro there, because you can Google anything, right? So what I'm sharing is personal. It's what have I learned, your question, over all these decades. I think really good coaching kind of connects to what I just said. It's a heart thing. It begins with, it begins with caring about the people, but I might end there. But I think here it starts in terms of practicality. You have to know the person. That's where it starts. You have to get to know them. We can't say we care and there's a heart thing and a connect if we don't really know who they are. So if we were making a numbering stuff, I'd say number 1 is you have to know who they are. Who are they? What's their story? What's their background? What's the context? That's where it starts. Then I think we have to learn to listen well. And I think pastors are pretty good at that, but what I know, under the pace and pressure of ministry, we run out of time. And sometimes so we have to make space, not only understand what good listening is, but make space for listening. Then I think this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's a good thing to include. I think all leadership development begins with self-awareness. And you really never arrive at, I'm self-aware, you do hit that in points, But as the organization grows and as culture changes, as the organization grows and as culture changes, you have to keep up with your self-awareness. Or you can, it's like they say, well, this, you know, they're old and out of it, whatever they might, people. So you got to keep up with self-awareness. And I think a good coach tries to stay in tune with that, with the person they're at least talking about it. Then I think an obvious one is get on their agenda, stay on their agenda. That's what I say all the time to the leaders I coach. I'll get on your agenda, I'm going to get on your agenda, stay on your agenda, and I'll add to your agenda. So it's your agenda. I'm going to get on your agenda, I'm going to stay on your agenda, but I'm going to add to the agenda. And so again, another one is I've learned to ask good questions. And this one, I may be so good at it, I'm annoying, but it comes from a good place. I was actually, for a brief time after college, my major was a criminal justice administration. I was a private investigator before God called me to ministry. So mine just wired to ask questions. And well, here's one of the things kind of funny on me. I'm goofy, I guess, but I've learned to stop answering questions people aren't asking. And it comes, again, for us who lead people, it comes from a good place. We care. We want to give them things we think are helpful, but we have to answer questions they're asking. And then I think I'm going to wrap with the same thing. At the end of the day, you've got to believe in them. You've got to care. You have to see something in them. And when people talk about, they say, well, Dan, I don't know, what do you mean? What's the heart of a good coach and all? And I said, well, I don't want to be over the top, but sometimes to give a picture of how to feel, you have to be a little bit, clear. And I said, well, think about your kids. Think about the feeling you have for your kids. That when you're, as a parent, how much do you care for you? Well, they're not my kids. I know. I said, I just want you to feel something. So the way you care about your kids, try to adopt some of that. Like do you feel like you care about them? You want their best for them. Now you're on the right track.
That is fantastic. Absolute gold. Really, really good. Yeah, brilliant. And I think for every leader, that caring piece is just so, so important. And and I think this is already the theme of genuinely caring, genuine relationships. All running through all of that is so important. What I want to do is just shift gear slightly away from the book actually, and just to talk a little bit around succession, because I know that both you and well, when I first met you, I think it was 2016, I think it was. And you were executive pastor at 12 Stone, and Kevin Myers was the senior pastor. You've both gone through a period of succession. You've passed roles on, and you've been going through that. I'd love to hear about how that's been and what you've learned through that process of sort of succession planning and succession, I guess, implementation as well.
Sure. So let me give a little context because it's kind of cool, kind of rare. It's a triple succession. And it was the senior pastor, Kevin Myers, myself, executive pastor, and our CFO, Norwood Davis. So all three. And what is now, I want to give another context thing. Kevin, so I can brag on this a little bit because Kevin was the genius. He was the mastermind. He was the one that we all helped and participated, of course, but he was the one behind it all. And so props to PK. And all three of the guys came, and this doesn't have to be this way, but I think it's best this way. All three guys came from within. We have been developing them for a long, long time. And so go back again to trust and culture and all those things there. If it's possible, it's not always possible, I know, but if it's possible for succession to rise up from within, that's a really good thing. So now to the heart maybe of your question. I think when the leaders who have the authority are truly willing to give it, to give it away, to empower, because sometimes, if we look at the dark side of, I know I'm jumping around here a little bit, but I'm just talking from my heart. if we look at the dark side of succession, and I think sometimes we have to because it's often doesn't work. And one of the points of the dark side of succession is one group won't let go and the other group wants to take it. When that happens, it's not going to go well. So when the current leaders are willing and ready to give it away, which is the healthy, proper thing to empower, and the successors want to learn and grow and receive it in proper timing, not take it. And those are exaggerated themes, I know, but it's some places it's not that exaggerated. Or the deal's already been done and the succession's done, but the former one won't leave and won't let go, or there's all kinds of things, and we all know the stories. But I think when the relationship is such that we're talking about, the leaders are truly giving it away and want to, they truly care about the next, and the next are actually turn out to then now they're honoring the ones before, and they don't even want you to go. Like, Jason and Dan invited Kevin and I to stay for a season, a lengthy season, not to run the organization necessarily, but to coach and teach and be there and all that stuff. And we've been enjoying that. We've been having the time of our lives doing that. And we even have little jokes about it to keep it healthy. We'll say, Kevin and I will say to them, I don't know why we talk about red jet skis, because neither one of us want to have one red jet ski, but it just came out as a joke one day and it stuck, but it's a healthy little joke. No one's even said this, but we all know what we're doing. But Kevin and I have often said now, hey guys, anytime you want us gone, just give us each a red jet ski and we're out of here, baby. We are so out of here. And they'll quip right back and they say, hey, yeah, dude, if you ever drive in the driveway in the parking lot and you see two red jet skis, that means you're done. You just can turn around and go. And we laugh, but see, that's healthy. That banter, which is joking and not, it's healthy, because give us the jet skis, we're gone. You know what I mean? And it's even, I can't help when I tell you this, but to laugh, because if you saw the spirit of our relationships, that's what we do. We laugh. And because it's like, we're in this together. And so anyway, I don't want to go on and on there, but.
No, that is brilliant. I love that. And I think, it's testament to seeing just how fantastically the succession has gone. I wonder what could churches do to get better at succession planning? I think for many church leaders, they're coming into a season now where that's starting to, how long should that take? What some really good practices that you've learned that you would recommend that other churches put into place?
Yes. I'm not a succession expert. This is the first season in the local church where there are professionals that full-time, all they do is succession management. So I'm not one, but I'm in it. And even in my coaching, I'm in it. So here's what I've learned personally and around the country is starting ahead. Start talking about it before there's panic. What do you want? Where do you want to go? What are you thinking about? Just start talking, start ahead, at least 5 years. I mean, start ahead. Then I think you have to have a plan. Well, what's that going to look like? Like we talked about a minute ago, someone from the outside, someone from the inside. What's the plan? One of the key pieces, there's so many key pieces. That's why get an expert help here. But will the senior stay? Will the senior leave? Will there what's the plan? And one of the things you would think this is a simple thing, and like, you wouldn't have to say something to somebody, but write it down. You have to write this plan down. You have to write it down. And then if you have a committee or a board or whatever your governmental, your structure is, governance is, make sure everybody sees it, everybody agrees, and that removes the angst and the all that stuff. That everybody's in agreement. And if things change, then update the agreement, the idea, the plan. I think the key word is readiness. I think the senior leader has to be ready. And because if they don't, And I think there's key things in readiness. Now, this may be too practical. You can edit this out. I don't know. But I think it's very difficult to be ready for succession without these three things. One is that their identity is not wrapped up in the title. If their identity is wrapped up in the title, succession is very difficult. Two, they have to know their next. What's your next? I don't care what it is. So you could play golf and go to the lake, or are you going to be a coach? They have to know their next. Otherwise, it gets, it gets jumpy in there somewhere. And the third is there needs to be financial stability in their life, or it just those three things are in place that has potential to go really, really well. If one or more are missing, I'm going to suggest that could start to get complicated.
How did you go about choosing your successor? Was it your decision? Was it a group decision? What were you looking for someone just like you? How did that process come about?
Yeah, wouldn't pick someone just like me. But so Dan, the guy who's the new exec pastor, Dan. I call myself old Dan. I call him tall Dan. He's like 6'1". I mean, he's just tall. He's brilliant, fast. He's smart. I mean, no, I did not pick him myself. The way something like that happens for us, the governance and style and culture is the senior pastor would have a significant say in that. The potential senior pastor would have the successor senior pastor. In other words, you're not going to make that choice before that choice. So we should never pick that person. The new guy should pick that person. Now, is there overlaps and stuff? Because you're all in the mix together. Well, yeah, there's overlaps, but so that's important. Then there has to be a kind of a heart alignment. Is this making sense? And then God's revealing, this person's rising, the board is affirming, and so that would be on the XP side of things. Senior pastor a little bit different, again, denominational governance and all, but not entirely different. I feel like I'm jumping around because there's so many parts of that have to be right, but I hope I got out the gist of how we did it.
No, I think that comes through. It's not just you just looked out one day and went, that guy. It's a process. It's conversation. It's wider than just a leadership team. There's governance involved, and like you said, with Kevin moving on and passing it to Jason, that was there was a denomination involved with that. There was it was a big wider process, and it took time. I think that's from what we probably can glean from that, for sure.
And keep in mind, for 10 years, I don't know how many, but we watched them grow, and we watched them lead, and we watched them rise, and we watched the God-given anointing and favor, and all that was in place.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing for that with us, and with just sharing your wisdom around leadership development and coaching and all those things. And we just really appreciate it. It's just absolute, like I've said a couple of times already, absolute gold. It's been like a box of cookies. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. A box of cookies, maybe with a good mug of tea as well. So, Dan, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate you taking the time, speaking to me all the way from across the pond as well. So, yeah, thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Well, truly, Chris, my pleasure. It's really fun talking with you, and I always learn something. When we write and when we talk, we learn how we think. And so this has been wonderful. Maybe someday we can do it again. And I continue, pray God's best for you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dan. I would love that. That'd be great. Bless you. Thank you for listening to this episode of That CPD Show. For more episodes, why not subscribe and give us a review? It really helps us out. See you next time.